previous session we have talked about the 3 stages of the creation of the innovation culture, and therefore there how that is the from the individual, right from the individual in the coaching process, one to one coaches, or it is a team building. That is the you manage the team and you get the ideas from the different units, and identify those creative and innovative employees, and make a team, evaluate those ideas and convert into those ideas. Now further we will talk in continuation of that particular 6 stages. The 3 stages we have discussed in the previous session, and now the 3 stages from stage 4, 5 and 6 we will discuss now. We know that is decision making model. What is the decision making model is? That is the creation of alternatives. Now you see, because of our emotional, many times, most of the times, that is our emotional curtain, it does not allow us to see beyond the particular point, because on that particular point the emotional curtain comes. So what we do? Then we reject the ideas. We do not create the ideas, we do not create the alternatives. These alternatives which are to be created, but if you are emotionally stable, believe me, you will have the more ideas. If you are not biasness, you are not shortcuts in judging others, right, then definitely you will have the more ideas and more solutions, more ways, more paths, more directions, because that you are emotionally stable now. So you are able to see the reasonably, logically the situation, right. So therefore evaluating the options, that these are the alternatives and these alternatives are to be evaluated. Right, but problem is most of the time these alternatives are narrow. We have the limited alternatives. If we are having the limited alternatives, then definitely in that case it will be very difficult for us to make the evaluation, because what you will evaluate? We will evaluate options only from the very that available alternatives only. Right. So first is the creation of the as many as alternatives are there. Second is these evaluating options, right, that we have to be again without any biasness, right, and this is when individual and team works together to identify the best way to take an idea forward. So this evaluation. Now that there are the 2 methods, quantitative and qualitative. Now here if we are going by these numbers, then definitely you will go for the quantitative is there. But if you are going by the contents, that is the words, right, then definitely it will be qualitative, the content analysis is to be done. So it is becoming very, very important. That is the how we are going to create this particular alternatives evaluation, and when individuals and team works together without any emotional biasness, without any the creating the limitations and premises, right, because we are what we are doing, we are evaluating. So evaluation has to be done fairly, and if the fairly the evaluation has been done, then we will identify the best way to take an idea forward. This is when the final modifications are made before the implementation. At this stage it is essential to look more broadly at a situation or idea. As I mentioned, your canvas you have to make the wider canvas is there. So you have to go by the more broader look. Teams need to ask exploratory questions such as, what if we tried doing it this way? So there are so many ways to do, if we do by this way, if we do by that way, and the number of ways are there. then how do we identify that is the what is to be done. So, in this way we will identify that is the n options are there. And therefore, we can find out. So, there are number of stories are there, like we talk about the crow story, and the crow is thirsty, and then he sees an earthen pot, and in that earthen pot he finds that there is some little water is there, and now he wants to drink that water. Then how that water, so then in that case it will be like this, that is the he will take the stones and will throw stones, and then the water level will up, and then he will drink the water, right. But in the era of technology, so what you say nowadays, if I tell this story to kids, then they will say that is why he is not using the straw, right. So, let him take the straw and use it. So, and there may be the many more, you might be better because you are young generation. So, you will be giving the better options also, technological options, that is why he is not using the technology and getting the water drink is there. So, that team, right, when they are the going for these particular decisions, what they will do, they will making the lot of modifications in the given situations. So, here when we want to say the best way to take, right, and in the best way to take, what we will do, final modifications will do. With the generations to generation, this final modifications will keep on changing. But how fast it will be there, it will depend on the acceptability and flexibility of the generation, decision makers. If any solution is given and that is acceptable, naturally that will be after so many of comparison of the finance and the HR and operations and all, and then there will be the suggestion. So, therefore, that is the final modifications will be there, and that modifications are acceptable before the implementation, and then at this stage it is essential to look more broadly as much as possible, right. And teams need to ask exploratory question, that is the if we are trying this technology, right, nowadays, or another important which is nowadays buzzword is, that is the methods or man or machine or material or money or method, which I have mentioned there, or minutes. So, I will advise you, that is the whenever you are going for the implementation of any solution, please see this is the all 6 the M's, all 6 M's of the management that you are applying for the final modifications. And in the final modifications, you see manpower, machine, material is applicable, and then which one will be the best one. And these resources are available or not for the decision which you are going to take. Please be careful about this also. If you do not have this, then that will be very difficult. So, please be careful, and therefore, in that case, these main machine material that you are able to find out. So, team needs to find what if try doing in this way. So, then accordingly, it is also important to look for the further examples like the benchmark and learn from other people's experiences. This is a very good practical solution, that is the you identify how others are doing, and this is a traditional way actually the identifying the solutions. So, therefore, if somebody asks that is the how will you go? So, he says that I will ask him, my friend has gone there, I will ask him and I will go. So, many times when that is why we teach the so many case studies, we discuss so many incidences of the organizations, so that is you come to know that is what are the benchmarking practices. We have talked about the in the earlier sessions, we have talked about the number of the case studies, and through those case studies we understand that is the how these the innovations and creativity that has been encouraged and practiced by the organizations to find out the solutions, right. So, these are the benchmarking practices, and these benchmarking practices are based on the value systems also, because your benchmarking organizations are those who are following the values. So, benchmark is there, and learn from others people's experiences. Think positively, imagine other ways of implementing an idea. So, therefore, you have to think positively, that is the how you are going to implement this, and then this idea will be successful, people will appreciate, and therefore, you will be getting the victory. So, it is a long win, it is not a short win, right. It is a long win, and therefore, in that case, like this type of the small wins, you are going to be going for the big win is there. So, imagine other ways of implementing an idea. This is also seen, there is many times when you are implementing an idea, and then you may face certain problems also, and then you take the corrective actions, because the as we keep on talking about the global. So, something is applicable in the global level, and now we are going to apply into the local level. Then definitely there is the social, political, economical, legal, technological environment was different. Here it will be different. So, idea is copied, but still the environmental factors are different. So, therefore, that idea will work or will not work, that is very subjective. To overcome the subjectivity, it is important that is what we do. We take that particular idea into the local context, and then we find that is whether in our Indian context maybe, right, or in the our geographical location context maybe, because we within India also some ideas applicable into the east may not be applicable to west or north or south, and like this, because they are geographical, cultural, the variations, physical, social, right. So, there will be so many variations will be there. So, whether you are able to control those variations and keep that idea intact and implement that or not, that you have to see. So, imagine the other ways of implementing an idea. You are the judge, that in your given condition, how will you do that? You want to create an organization that evaluates ideas and options. Evaluation, right, and as I mentioned, that is a quantitative and qualitatively also, and then the many times we do the SWOT analysis. Then we go by the content analysis. Right. So, therefore, in that case, whenever we are going for the SWOT and content analysis, we have to see that is the how it is going to work, and this analysis will give you certain options and alternatives, strengths, weakness, opportunity, threats, or the content analysis is to be done. Then has formal decision making process. So, this will give you the whether it is applicable or it is not applicable. Findings will give you that idea is applicable or not applicable, and then you can have the formal decisions making the processes. If your finding is that is yes, you can implement this particular idea, then you go for the formal decision making processes are there. Now, this SWOT, this is also have SWOT, that is the risk. So, please be prepared whenever you are going this type of the analysis, because you are keeping the in your mind that this will cost you so much, but suddenly I will give you one example. What happened, that is the one of the my friend, he has taken the loan, and in the loan that time the US loan in dollar, and the condition was that is the repayment in the dollar, and therefore the calculation was made, that is okay, this much excess dollar we have to pay and these dollars will be done, and financial condition was justified. But what happened, that is when the agreement was done, so that time the dollar was 32, and accordingly the calculation was done, that is when we will return these so much dollars, so the cost will be this much. But within 6 months dollar reached to 46. So therefore 14 rupees for the each dollar was the extra payment whatever was calculated as a repayment. So you can imagine that is the loan, how much the loans amount must have increased. So therefore it is a risk, you are taking the risks. However, from this we understand that is the return has to be done into the Indian monies and not into the foreign currency, that is a different issue. But it is that whenever you are going to implement an idea, my premises are social, political, economical, legal and technological. That has to go to change. With every 2 years these dimensions naturally have to go to change, and what will be the dimensions, there will be certain predictions, and for example the economic predictions. So how accuracy is there in the prediction, that is that you know and your economist knows. So therefore in that case, that is a risk is very important, that we have to understand that there will be risk. Stage 5, making it happen. Once you have worked through the idea generation, then the exploring and evaluating the stages, and then the stages, now you reach to the stage of implementation innovation. That is, now you are going to implement your innovation. It is at this stage that some very interesting things start happening. The individuals or team who originally generated the idea may have lost interest. It is a very big problem, and it happens practically. You will be surprised, that is the it is the real situation, real happening, reality. Those who have worked for this particular idea with so much of effort, so much of meetings, much of resistance, then providing the solution, overcome to those resistance, then barriers, then hard work, then engagement, then analysis, then content, then risk, and after that also they come out with the particular idea. And when it comes a question of implementation of idea, they have lost their interest. It is a human nature. So, in the morning somebody says something, in the evening when it is implemented, then say, oh, it was not suggested, it was not good. Then you will say, you have suggested, yeah, I suggested, but no. So, by simply saying no, they go away. This may be because of their main preference is in simply coming up with ideas, and they prefer to let others handle the implementation. You see, I tell them that they are the advisors, advisory role. Now you see, there are the, according to me, there are the two players. One is captain, one is expert. So, idea generation will come from the expert, but idea implementation is to be done by the captain, that leader. So, now it is up to that captain leader who is in the position, CEO, that is the advisor has given the advice, and it is a wonderful advice, and you see the ROI. you see the growth of the organization. But whether for implementation, do not ask me. So, they are the knowledge experts basically, they are the advisors, and therefore, they will not be interested to implement that idea which they themselves have suggested. Or it may also be that they are already being drawn into the start of another project, that is also there. By the time this project is approved and it is the stage of implementation comes, because you have taken a lot of time in evaluation and alternatives and all. So, then they will be starting the another project. What is important is that at this making it happen stage, those who take responsibility for the implementation, right. So, in the making it happen stage, those for the implementation, right, remain faithful to the ideas and concept generated in the early stages. So, therefore, it is those who were really having that particular concept of implementation, that who take the responsibility, then they really remain the faithful to the ideas and concepts in the early stages. Otherwise, ideas can be misinterpreted. Now the next team comes, and when the next team comes, they will interpret this idea differently, and sometimes the end result is very different from what was originally envisioned. So, therefore, what has been mentioned in the early stages, and now that is becoming a very difficult part, that is the how it will be done, right. So, those who have started in the beginning and they given a particular idea, by the time the idea is implemented and whatever the product is coming out, that is becoming totally different, because it has gone through so many brains, processes, methods. So, therefore, lot of modification, we have talked about the modification also. So, that modification is changing totally the formation of your idea, and therefore, whatever was the originally was envisaged, that has been changed to the new one. If the idea has evolved naturally, then this is acceptable, right, but not if it has been distorted and no longer meets the original need. So, therefore, those modifications are for the betterment of the use of the product or innovation, that is fine, or the output, right, but if it is not, then definitely it will be distorted one. So, that will be spoiled, that is what idea was given in the beginning, what you have made the modifications, because you have the right for the modification. So, you are modifying the product, and as a result of which you no longer it meets the original need. So, we want to create an organization that implements ideas in a practical way naturally. So, whatever the product is there, what we will look for in a practical way, that yes, this idea is been implemented. Uses formal planning processes, that whatever the formal planning processes are there, that have been implemented. Builds in feedback mechanisms, right. So, therefore, that is the whatever the feedback is there, that mechanism, then that is going to be the built, right, and using those feedback is there, and as a result of which that whatever the formal planning process and feedback is there, that will be done. Innovates, accelerates and innovates again. So, naturally those ideas that will be getting the certain new ideas at the time of innovation implementation. So, that is the accelerates there for the modifications, and when it originally comes, then again there will be certain suggestions, and then again it will be innovating again. So, now we will talk about the last stage. The measuring the success at the end of the process, it is important to monitor and review the overall success of the innovation project. Now, these innovation projects which we have started from the individual or team idea generation, from idea generation to the modifications, then implementation, then outcome and re-innovate. So, right from the idea generations to the modifications, right, and the outcome to the re-innovate is concerned. So, here we will find that is a whole innovation project, right, that will be monitor and review the overall success, how it has been done, because we have talked about so many stages in between, in which it is the teamwork is there, then their teamwork will suggest differently, then modification will be there, then there will be the implementation. So, that has to be checked by the whole process. This stage is vital if lessons are to be learned. Naturally, every stage, idea generation, implementation, then the company evaluate the alternatives, then the identifying the as many alternatives are there, then finally deciding the alternative, then technically implement that particular idea, and then see the utility of that particular organization, commercialization of that particular idea. So, this stage is vital if lessons to be learned. It is important to plan this stage from the start of the project, from the planning itself. If you are having the planning, then definitely right from the start of the projects you will be able to do. In the initial planning stage, identify the milestones that will set the project into a time frame and can be measured together with the outcomes. There is a project management is there. So, whenever we are talking about the planning of the project, right from the planning, right from the idea generation, from the individual to the group, then evaluation of ideas, the alternative ideas, the ways to implement the ideas, selecting the best way to implement the ideas. Ideas has been implemented through the benchmarking practices, and after benchmarking practices, when idea is generated and then we find that it is of the use or it is of no use. If it is no use, then again go for the reprocess and find out that is the how it can be again modify, and then modifying the project, and then you are getting that idea. So, lessons to be learned to plan the stage from the start of the project. In the initial planning stage, identify the milestones. All these milestones or these stages are to be identified that will set the project into a time frame. This is important, because this type of the projects are having the 3 parameters: cost, time and the quality. So, if you are making the optimization of the cost at the very right time and the best quality, your project is successful. So, therefore, this time frame and the measurement of the outcomes, that is becoming very, very important. Think about how substantive data can be generated. In this process of the journey of this innovation, you are developing a lot of data, and that data has to be collected and then stored. So, because you convert the data into information, information into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom, wisdom into truth. So, therefore, you have to make the substantive data that can be generated. Find a way of effectively recording outcomes. So, what will be the outcome is there, because what output is required, the research output is required. In the first stage, when you are going for this type of the innovations or the research based product, right, then definitely you will be finding a way of effectively recording the outcome. That is how it has been done. Without making it too onerous, try to gather the quantitative as well as qualitative data, as I mentioned. So, that substantive data in the process and the journey of the development of that product, right, please ensure that is you are having the quantitative versus as qualitative data is there. You note it down that what development has been done, what changes have been done, on what parameters it has been evaluated, what benchmarking practices have been taken into consideration, how the decisions were identified, and finally the decision was taken, implementation of decision, and then their consequences. That all you have to see, and therefore, that quantitative versus qualitative data. Look back at the original action plan and objectives and measure if those objectives have been met. Importantly, all team members should work together to review every part of the project and to identify the lessons learned. Be careful, that is the whoever are working, right. So, they are learning from that particular project and they documented that what lessons they have learned. If they have learned properly and they are documented, so in the next project, what I was talking about, the cost, quality and time, that you will control, right. So, therefore, be careful, that is the you are going to create. So, finally, what you want to create an organization that is benchmarked by the other organizations that create your organization, has established the feedback and mechanisms. So, because of this data has been collected and documented and the journey has been recorded. So, therefore, that is the feedback mechanisms are there, and celebrates the success and reward innovation. And your innovation has become so popular, your product has become so popular, so it is catching the market share, maximum market share. So, and it is a new in the market. So, therefore, that is a reward for you, and that is creating the success and rewards are there. While this 6 stages model is tried and tested, the reality is that in today's modern organization there will always be exceptions, right, and we are experiencing change on an unprecedented scale like the current. The generation of ideas and the speed of products to market have changed dramatically. The need for organizations to harness the talents and the enthusiasm of all employees is vital in creating and engage the motivated workforce. So, therefore, definitely this is a continuous process. One production, one innovation, success, then failure, then another product, another innovation. So, this journey is keep on going. So, please be invited and engage a motivated workforce. It is also valuable to acknowledge and act on the feedback and requests from customers and to use the social media to gather the feedback nowadays, and therefore, your new product development and in the process and journey of the new product development also you will get the input from the stakeholders. So, this is all about how to implement this 6 stages model of the innovations and make the best use of your talent. Thank you.